Good morning. Welcome back to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Mahle, brought to you by Triple T Transport. Gotta start a good series today. Got two very knowledgeable, trusted sources on with us. Many of you will remember Joe Lombardo, president, founder of Iggy Avenue and Associates. 10 years with Nabisco, 20 years with Nestle, transportation all over North America. Got a lot of experience and wisdom and tribal wisdom. And then with us also today is going to be Nathan Helms, Director of Trans at Organic Valley. We love having Nathan on. Nathan, we appreciate the value you bring, and your perspective is always direct, intelligent, and crystal clear. So thank you both for being on. So as we're going through the summer months of June, July, and August, we start to see more of these situations happen. And the subject we're going to talk about today is temperature on the trailer versus temperature of the recorder and processes. So which is right? When you have a recorder writing with product and you have a temperature question, we're going to try and understand how to break this down and figure out where breakdowns can be, where issues can be, and where the fault lies, so that we can eliminate these situations moving forward and understand who's responsible for the product. Nathan, you've seen some of these lately?
Indeed.
Yep, and we've seen some. Joe, you've seen this cycle, especially when the warmer weather hits. We normally communicate with all of our carriers that we definitely have to watch temp closer and let us know what's going on from a shipping and a receiving side and warm product, or is the product at temp, and we start buckling down probably in April for this annually every year, because as you start to go into hot markets, Texas, for example, or Florida, Georgia, and the southern states, as long as it also includes the western states, but areas where it gets extremely hot, we start to see some temperature abuse and problems and sometimes rejections. So we had a scenario where one of our carriers picked up a shipment for us that was more than pre-cooled, sat in the warehouse for a couple weeks ahead of time, and they picked it up, and we'd seen some temperature questions out of this product going into one of the receivers. And so we proactively bumped the temperature down a couple degrees on the refrigeration unit from 34 to 32 degrees to try and ensure that the product stayed as cool as possible, when we got to our delivery and upon arrival. If you'd look now to your screen that we're sharing, this is a copy of the recording. On the left, highlighted is going to be our carrier set point. On the right is going to be the middle of your screen. Will be the discharge temp. That is the temperature that refrigeration unit is blowing into the trailer and out the chute across the top of the trailer. And then you've got the far right column here in yellow is going to be return air temp. So you can see where it's set at 32 degrees. No point in time through this, other than defrost cycles, which are normal, it was run on continuous cycle the full time. The whole time load was in transit. The refrigeration unit was on continuous cycle. So at no point in time does this unit not hold temperature. You can see our return air temp coming back in with a degree or two of the discharge temp into the trailer. So we're scrolling down through here, and we see our defrost cycles, which are normal. That's the way they're supposed to work, so that they don't freeze up. And this product was probably 4 feet high in the trailer, to give you guys some more facts, and loaded intact and delivered intact. So we're comparing this download all the way through. We go follow it all the way through the processes, and we see upon delivery that we have delivered or shown up at the receiver and back into the dock at temp. Do you guys have anything on this that you recognize or see or would like to talk about?
No, not from my perspective.
I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
And in fact, I would venture to say that most units don't operate as well as this one did. When you normally are within a degree or two at any point in time for multiple days on the return air temp, that this has done a really good job, let's say. Okay, so we get to the receiver. So to that same shipment, this is the recorder that showed up in the trailer upon delivery, that the shipper put in with the shipment. Here's our temperature recorder. Now, the big bold line here is 40 degrees. If I didn't know better, I would say there was no way this was in the trailer.
What this looks like to me is it didn't get started until it arrived. I could be wrong, but you're in the 32-degree range, and then all of a sudden it spikes up, and then you're in the 40s and 50s. So is there a time stamp on the bottom of that, John?
Correct. It's over here to the left. Shows the start date and time. We clipped that off to try and protect all parties. So it shows the loading date and the time that this recorder was started at the shipper, and it shows the delivery date and time. So when the temperature spikes up here, this would have been at delivery, backing into the door where my mouse is.
So is this temperature recorder on the product?
Correct.
So then to me, it looks like you got loaded with warm product.
One would think that, but it actually was in the warehouse for 2 weeks cold, and it wasn't a dense product. So you have other variables there. If it's liquid versus thicker, fattier type of food product, temperature is more of a concern. But this here says that at no point in time did the recorder that was on the product go under 40 degrees in transit. So this was turned on around 11 a.m. This was loaded around 1 p.m. and it consistently showed maybe a low of 43, high of 46, 47, and consistently all the way along. So the trailer operated flawlessly, and we have the download. We attempted to have the trailer serviced or to see if it needed any type of repair, and the third-party company that manages the equipment and the refrigeration units tapped out and said, we can't find anything that's not running to perfection. This is a really good unit, and there's no flaws in it, and here's the download to support it. So we're not going to make any repairs or make any adjustments on temperature calibration. Then you say, where did the product get warm? If it was loaded at temp and it was in a warehouse, refrigeration warehouse for 2 weeks prior to loading, then you say, where did it get warm and how did it get warm? So let's go back to the download. Here we are. And we back into the door at the receiver on time for our delivery, and we wait with no one for the driver to communicate to. He's given his instructions from the guard shack. He backs into a facility where he can't be on the dock. He's told to open his doors and back into the dock and leave the unit running. In 90-degree heat in the middle of the summer for 2 hours and 45 minutes. My thought process is that we have two things working against us in this scenario. We have a faulty recorder, because I don't believe the recorder was ever correct. And then the driver backed into a dock in Florida, southern Florida, in the heat, drawing in warm air at the dock plate, sucking it into the trailer and warming up the load as he's delivering it.
I'm waiting for you to reveal the rest of the download because return air spiking up.
Here we've got return air coming in at 61957. So we have already made delivery at this point. This was a 6 a.m. delivery. So we would have we would have hit the doors here, and we would have exited here at this point. Now, I will share with you the product was taken off of the trailer at some point in time within that 3 hours and left sit on the dock and then put back on the trailer.
Why would they do that?
Great question. It's a wonderful question.
I said, I'm assuming it's a refrigerated dock.
Yes. Yes. It's supposed to be, but we don't have the ability to know if the dock temperature is actually holding. Sometimes in the heat, the receiving and shipping docks get a little warmer than they probably should. We do know that. Too much activity, too many trucks in at once, everything kind of warms up. You would hope that the dock temperature, but there again, we can't. How do we get that information to prove dock temperature at a receiver if you're the carrier, when you can't even speak to somebody at the facility? Our contention is we feel that this is a bad recorder in with the product. Had the product been loaded warm, we normally, in those scenarios, if we go back to 531 and loading, for example, on the timeline, from this point leaving the shipper, then within a couple hours, we would have seen the return air temp spike up. That's normally what happens when we're loaded with product that is warm. Have you seen that before?
Does the consignee do destructive temps on the product?
Yep, they took a pulp temp of one item in the trailer and sent it out after 3 hours at 45, 46 degrees.
And what was the pulp temp?
45 to 46 degrees was the photo that we have. But after all the years of 30 years of doing this, I've never seen a download better than this, and I've never seen warm product on the trailer that looks as good as this download. Every one that has ever been loaded that is warm, where you leave the dock, and so you've got multiple factors here. Did they scan it with a gun for a temp gun? Get the outside of the cellophane on the pallet wrap and the box on the outer portion of the pallet, but the inner product in the pallet is warm. Well, you could say, we've seen those scenarios happen, but not with product that's been in the freezer or refrigerator for 2 weeks. So we know that the product was loaded at temp because the return air temp all the way through the trip is perfection. I mean, it doesn't get better. When they're loaded warm at the shipper, over the first 2 to 4 hours of leaving the dock, the temperature normally climbs on the return air temp. And the units normally will stay in high speed or run harder. So you probably got loaded with warm product. How is the driver or carrier to protect himself and his shipper when the product leaves his control? All these questions and more will be on our next episode of Stay in Your Lane. Thank you both for participating today. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.